Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm your host, Allie Ingersoll. You might remember the story about Bob the cat. He was found in Fuquay Varina a few months ago, but his microchip linked him back to a woman in Kansas. Well, the custody controversy continues now, and WRAL's Five on Your Side producer Pritchard Strong is here to bring us up to speed. Hey, Pritch, thanks for joining us. So this has garnered national attention. Let's start at the very beginning, though. What's the backstory on Bob?
So the backstory on Bob goes all the way back to 2013. A woman named Carol Holmes adopted Bob in Kansas, named Bob after her father. And a few months later, she ended up losing Bob. He disappeared, and another woman came into possession of Bob, and shortly thereafter, she ended up moving to North Carolina, and that is how he essentially ended up in our area.
Okay, so this has been going on then for a little while, since 2013. Like, that's not yesterday, right?
Right.
And this wound up going to court, right? What happened?
Yeah, so last year, September 2023, kind of when this whole controversy stirred up, right? Bob was wandering around a neighborhood in Fuquay. He was picked up, brought to an animal clinic, microchipped, and linked back to Carol Holmes, who was still in Kansas. And this is, again, remember, 10 years after Bob was initially adopted by Carol. And essentially there was a fight back and forth between the woman who had cared for Bob for 10 years, who was now living in Fuquay Varina, and the original owner in Kansas. And yes, it ended up in court. Wake County Animal Services had to make a ruling. They cited a previous court case awarding the cat back to Carol because that's who the cat was microchipped to. And the other woman who had been caring for Bob for a long time filed an injunction, tried to have charges taken out for theft of the cat. Those didn't go anywhere. Again, the cat was deemed to belong to Carol Holmes, and that was the final decision, and that's what was supposed to happen to Bob in September. So
it is now March. After all of that, where's Bob?
Bob is not with Carol. He is not in Kansas. He is actually in Statesville in Iredell County, which is north of Charlotte. And there's a bit of a story behind that, but basically, somebody went to go pick Bob up for Carol, and Bob did not end up with Carol at this point.
Okay, that's very complicated, all very complicated here. His third home in a decade or more then. You had a chance to talk to many people involved with this because he has had many owners, many family members. Who are some of the other people you spoke with as well?
So Jennifer Manella is the person in Statesville who has the cat right now. And Jennifer Manella came into the story because Carol was in Kansas. She had a friend who she was talking with, and they were concerned that there was going to be an injunction filed and the ruling that she would get Bob might be delayed. So they wanted to get Bob as soon as possible, the first day he was available to be picked up. So Carol's friend had a cousin in Statesville, Jennifer Manella. She's the one who drove over and picked up Bob, and there was an agreement. She was going to pick him up as an agent in place of Carol, keep him for a few days until Carol could come down and get the cat. Cat was supposed to go back with Carol. This is not uncommon. People do this all the time for all sorts of different reasons, where somebody picks up or reclaims an animal for them. And that is how Jennifer Manella ended up with Bob.
So you had a chance to talk with her on the phone, right? What did she say to you?
She said she was keeping Bob. She said that Wake County Animal Services adopted Bob to her, which I went back and checked, and that's not the case. Wake County Animal Services says she filled out paperwork for a reclamation, which is different than an adoption. They show me the paperwork that is different for each case, and Jennifer did not adopt Bob, is the bottom line. Now, she claims that when she picked Bob up, she was told she was adopting Bob, and she could do whatever she wanted with him. That's what she says she was told. That's what she says she maintained she was told to this day, even after going back and checking with animal services in Wake County.
So Bob is currently near Charlotte.
Yes.
Not in Kansas.
Nope.
All right. And after this break, we're going to talk more about Carol Holmes and her legal rights. Welcome back. So, Pritch, you have talked with Carol quite a bit now at this point. What did she say about all of this?
Yeah, so Carol is frustrated. She says it's been a roller coaster. It's been really troubling. I mean, she quite frankly says she's gotten threats and been really harassed by people who saw this initial story and reacted to it, and we're not happy that she was determined to be Bob's owner and that she was going to get Bob back. So I mean, it's been tough on her, and she has been fighting to get Bob and is really frustrated by this latest development that there's another custody controversy involving Bob.
So she only had Bob for a few months before he went missing, and that's how he kind of wound up here, as we talked about. So if she only had him for a few months, why is she fighting so hard for Bob?
So she named Bob, like I mentioned, for her father, her late father, and really just felt a connection to this cat. And I flat out asked her during the interview with her, what is it about this cat that has so many people so passionate that they are fighting legal fights to get this cat? And she said, he's very loving. He's a very chatty cat. Just really connects with people seemingly very quickly. And she's just fought really hard for the connection with her father. She said that she got the call, I think, that they had found Bob after 10 years. It would have been her father's 94th birthday, I believe. So some coincidences like that that kind of came up that all just kind of added to this.
As a pet owner, you definitely do get very attached to your pet. So
absolutely.
You definitely understand that. I think a lot of people understand that. What are her legal rights in this situation?
So, again, Wake County determined that she was the rightful owner of the cat because she was the only owner listed on the cat's microchip, and they cited a previous court ruling in making that decision. So you would think that would be the case here and that she'd have some clear legal rights. Now, there's been some issues with the microchip, but she has the original adoption records for Bob. She has the microchip records and things like that, and that's what she used to get the cat back in Wake County, and presumably that's what she could do to get the cat back if she has to go to court in Iredell County.
So talking a little about microchipping, first off, I want to say this was a great reminder to go and check if my dog is microchipped. I've moved around quite a bit. Yep. And I was like, cool, is my address correct? And my contact information correct? Because I would be devastated if anything happened to my precious Potter. So thank you for doing that part of the story. So let's talk, though. What is microchipping? Kind of explain how it works and what happened in this situation with it.
Yeah, so microchipping, I mean, a lot of dogs and cats, most are going to be microchipped, and they all kind of track back to a database. 24 Pet Watch is the microchipping company involved here in this case, and it's linked to an ID number, it's linked to a person or an owner, and again, Carol was listed as the owner, the only owner on the microchip data. And what ended up happening is somehow when Bob ended up in Iredell County, Jennifer Manella was able to apparently change the microchip information. So she changed the information so that she would be listed as the owner. Carol found out about that and apparently got 24 Pet Watch to change it back to her. She says Jennifer Manella changed it back to her name again. Carol went back to 24 Pet Watch, and for whatever reason, they wouldn't change it back into her name. And she didn't get a really clear explanation about this, and it's really unclear why 24 Pet Watch would have done that without the proper paperwork, unless there was some sort of clerical error. Something happened. We have reached out to 24 Pet Watch multiple times in multiple different ways, and really the only thing that we've gotten back is a form response on changing the process of changing microchip information and data and how you do it and what you have to provide. So that is one thing that could end up coming up in court. That could be a complication. The microchip data currently is in Jennifer Manella's name, according to Carol. So that could become an issue. But again, we check with Animal Services in Wake County, and they still advise microchipping is still a really good way to provide or to determine ownership of an animal.
Yeah, I think that's once again a great reminder to people watching this story to go home and check your pet and check your information. So you did kind of touch on this a little, but right, like the story starts off like, what is it about Bob? And really, why Bob? We do so many stories here about animal shelters around our area just being filled with dogs and cats. So there are obviously plenty of other cats out there that any of these people could get. So why Bob? What is it about him that all these people are going through these great lengths and efforts to try to become his rightful owner?
It's kind of an incredible story. Carol obviously has her connections with her father. A lot of people care about this cat, and just its personality, I guess, has really just attached people. You can understand the woman who cared for Bob for 10 years. I mean, 10 years with your pet, and to have it suddenly gone is got to be devastating. But I mean, yeah, the fact of the matter is, while people are fighting for this cat, there are tons of animals, dogs, cats, in shelters all across our area, great animals looking for a good home. That, you know, these folks obviously have reasons that they're fighting their fight. But yeah, I mean, definitely take a look at your local shelter, and you know, there's animals there. I got 2 dogs from local shelters across the state, and love them. They're awesome.
There are less controversial cats out there.
There are less controversial cats out there. That's right.
Thank you Pritch for joining me today, and thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download. If you listen to this podcast on WRAL.com or on the WRAL News app, you can also find it in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Follow the show so you don't miss an episode. Thanks for listening.